Hello, this is Zula and today we will talk about 6 games that fell off bad. Before we start this video off, I would like to introduce some honorable mentions. First honorable mention is Jump Force. When this game came out, everyone was excited that a Mugen game would come out in 3D, but it quickly fell off due to the quality of the storyline. The 1v1 gameplay is still very good, which is why I'm not putting it on the main list. Last honorable mention is Street Fighter V. The game quality itself is really good, however it did get repetitive and boring, to the extent where nearly 75% of the player base to leave after months. Now we will get on to the top 6. Just to clarify, I will be ranking these games by the following factors: player enjoyment, game quality, and personal opinion. At the bottom of the list, I'm putting Apex Legends. Apex really had the potential to go up in standard and quality comparable to the likes of Fortnite and Call of Duty. Apex was pretty much a mix of both, with a similar first-person POV to Call of Duty and cool guns, character builds and mapping to Fortnite. However, they pretty much had the whole game planned just for the release, and not for future updates that were needed. That is why pretty much every update was just a rushed off season, by adding one new character nobody would use and a bad gun each season comes out. As the months went by, the player base dropped drastically, to the point where the game's die-hard fans would drop the game consecutively. But they still average a decent player base compared to other games in this list, as they barely reach 250,000 players. Number 5 will be Among Us. This game is pretty much universally agreed to have fallen off horribly, and we can all also agree that it only got popular because it released during the lockdown and nobody had nothing else to do. The game itself was pretty cool, as the gameplay you could call somewhat original and fun at the time, but the game got so repetitive and boring in quick span of time, since the game only had one main job and role to do. You could also get some hints that this game copied the game mission from IRL games like Mafia, Find the Culprit, etc. Don't get me wrong, the game is original to its own say from all the updates like the airship update. And to make it worse, the community made the game more dislikable. And no, I'm not talking about YouTubers like Zen Mode, Socks for One or streamers, but the people who overuse the imposter or SUS memes. At first, we would all laugh at the joke since back then it would be funny, but it quickly got overused and cringe, so people who do these memes these days would just be publicly labeled as weird. Right now, the game barely averages over 3,000 players, which is a terrible fall-off from its all-time peak of around 500,000 players at once. At number 4, was a game everyone wanted to get as they saw the gameplay. All mobile players would have to get rip-offs since their favorite YouTuber was playing the game. And I am talking about Fall Guys. The game was really amazing, from the music to the gameplay. It was at one point named the best game of the year. And I know some of you could relate to it, but people who used mobile and didn't have any console or PC were so struck-ridden that they couldn't play the game. However, just like Among Us, it was very repetitive and got boring real quickly due to also not having the patience to wait for the lag to stop. They also were very short and lacking in updates, and each update just added a new map which served the same purpose. Right now they are averaging only 1,200 player, compared to their all-time peak of nearly 200,000. At number 3, I put Cyberpunk 2077. This game had a horde of problems, as the developers set the game standards way too high just to end up in a pot of rubble. Let's start off with the game quality. If I could describe the game's game quality, I would say atrocious. And no, I don't meant in-game graphics quality, but gameplay as a whole. All I could tell you is that it was incredibly buggy, unplayable, and the only way to launch it smoothly was to have a NASA-made PC. Yes, it was that unplayable it was a contender, said by users, to be the worst game of the year, or even ever made. It was a whole lot of mess, that you couldn't go through the minimum 30 hours of gameplay, but at max you could only play 30 minutes without crashing. And a lot of players hated it, including myself. The storyline was very good, but you could not even enjoy that without your game breaking, freezing, or lagging every 5 minutes. This was one of the worst games at the time, and this is why I put it in here. However, the game made a comeback and fixed everything, and right now it has become a very great game. Back then it would only average maximum 8,000 players, but now it averages 30,000. So props to the game studio that managed to keep this game alive. At number 2, I'm putting the infamous MultiVersus. Oh boy, this game was in a whole lot of mess. When teasers of the game came out, it was hyped up abnormally high. It was at Outpoint named the Smash Brothers Killer, which was nowhere near true. This game was pretty much the jack of all trades in being bad. It had loads of bugs, unsafe and unkind community, and if you are making a similar game to Smash Brothers you should expect a lot of toxicity. The game showed the complete opposite of what it was. It was so empty, there was nothing to do, a very small roster with very few starter characters, and nobody had the time to do the long quests just to unlock one character. Pretty much all the game modes we have seen were tutorial, training, online and player v player. The player v player mode was not even working properly since it was nearly impossible to use 2 controllers on it. Oh, and let's not talk about the combat system because I could have a whole essay on it. It was bad, and I mean bad. We could all remember the times where we would put in those weird codes on the PlayStation Store to unlock the game for download. We would have to watch the YouTube tutorials, go on the official website and do those dumb quests just to unlock the download for the code, and put it in PlayStation Store. The game now is stare dead, averaging barely 50 players. And at number 1 is a game you wouldn't expect, or even remember. I am talking about Spellbreak. This was one of the main games of the Epic Games franchise, and was not popular at first. But when people would see the gameplay of a Magic Battle Royale, they were instantly engaged on it. But unlike other games on the list, it was horrible from the start. The magic system was very confusing, where you would have to unlock different magic gloves to use said magic, and you would find good gloves in chests. It was very confusing, but the biggest focus were the abilities themselves. Each magic would have their own set of abilities, like fire would have its 4 set, so would water, earth, shadow, poison, etc. And you could equip 2 gloves of 2 different magic abilities. But there were also super abilities, which would charge over time, and when it's ready, you can use it once and wait for it to charge up again. For such to be so big in cooldown, it should have been such an amazing super, right? No, the super abilities were like 1 dash, 1 high jump, shadow steps, etc. Just basic abilities even humans with no powers could do. Wow, so cool. The pre-game lobby is horrible as well. The skins were horrendous and were no cool ones to buy except defaults. The whole game in general is horrendous, which gives it a current player base of 0 and a monthly player base of 1. The average is 0. Now that is all the games that were listed. If you have other opinions, please list them down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.